Okay, good evening, Manhattan. We're going live in about 20 seconds. My name's Kirk Kerber, and this is a supernatural, metaphysical, mind-bending, reality-altering television show tonight, live from New York City. And take a deep yoga breath, because right now we are live. Good evening, Manhattan, New York City, the world, the universe, and beyond, out to all dimensions. My name is Kirk Kerber, and this is a mind-bending, another edition of Reality is an Illusion. We're in our 15th year of programming here over at the Kirk Television Studios. Take a deep yoga breath, and we're now going out live to New York City. And anywhere there is a live internet connection. Oh, okay. This is a TV show for the past 15 years that has been about all spiritual things, supernatural, mystical, and magical. And of course, mind-bendingly metaphysical. Shakti Namaste. My name's Kirk, and if you want to know more about what I do, I help people over at KirkSpiritual.com. I am a spiritual advisor, a trance medium, psychic, as well as a trance hypnotist on my way to becoming and studying to become a master hypnotist, as well as perhaps rogue hypnotist, new wave, new age shaman hypnotist, and I don't know. There's a lot of psychics, there's a lot of mediums, there's a lot of spiritual advisors, and there's practically, the legitimate shaman that you can meet and, connect with digitally is really rare. And then there's a whole host of coaches, but you're certainly not going to find a shaman, psychic medium, spiritual advisor, and soon to be full-blown hypnotist and life coach rolled up into one, and that would be me. And so I'm pioneering the multi-level healer glass ceiling over here, and yeah, it's really true. I was born a spiritual medium. Then I was initiated as a shaman with over 5 near-death experiences, and now I'm expanding my modality toolkit for your benefit and into face reading and trance hypnosis for deep state healing, and as well as therapeutic reasons. And I'm getting a piece of paper certified and everything. Oh my God, you're not supposed to sneeze on camera. Sorry about that. Okay, so I am a professional shaman and medium. I'm not really a professional TV person. Oh man, God bless me. Okay, so I'm called the Dirty Harry of Shamanism, and I have over 10 years of free content online with social media profiles on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Vimeo, YouTube, and Internet Archive. So I'm a busy man, and all of that content, of course, is free for love, love, love. So we're in the summer of 2019, and the summer of 2019. So I should be certified in the face reading and the therapeutic, as well as the trance hypnosis, as well as studying one of my heroes, Anthony Jacquin. And you're not going to hear me talking about this guy a lot, because I kind of want to keep it a secret, what I'm learning from this guy. But Anthony Jacquin wrote a book that I've had for several years, and probably ended up inspiring me to become a hypnotist and master hypnotist. And he wrote a book called Reality is Plastic. And I just happened to find it because I dig so much for articles over the last 15 years, for articles on YouTube, articles online, and then on YouTube, for, well-produced videos, 2 of which I'll show you tonight. And I ran into this book, Reality is Plastic, because I said when I first started doing the show over 15 years ago here in Studio 4 in New York, reality is negotiable. And I always tell people that in, no matter what capacity I'm seeing them as, reality is really far, far more negotiable than anybody could imagine, and that's kind of like getting you personally, as my client, up into the co-creator type of category with a solid foundation in manifestation, attraction, creation, manifestation techniques, law of attraction techniques, as well as just orientation and other dimensions, and as above, so below. I'm educated and in the laws and dynamics of manifestation and alchemy manifestation, personal transformation and transformative alchemy as well. And I created a website in the late 80s, early 90s, the first interactive website about transformative alchemy. So I'm kind of like an alchemist as well as a meditator, and I'm just trying to be everything I can be just for you right here on Kirk's Spiritual Television show and for my clients. So reality is an illusion, and thank you, Anthony Jacquin, Reality is Plastic, for inspiring me. So basically for the rest of the summer, I think we're just going to do shows about, mind-bending, bending reality to, hopefully to your own will, and not the will of somebody else, but enhancing the world. And so that's it. And we're like in our 4th week of, last week it was called mind control. So we're just going to deal with different realities and different facets of reality and metaphysics. A lot of times, mostly the show is about your spiritual evolvement, and we've done countless numbers of shows about psychic phenomenon, spiritual advisement, meditation, spiritual evolvement. But I think for the next couple months, for the summer of 2019, we're just going to focus on just, hypnosis. Reality is an illusion. We're in a simulation type of shows. So I don't know, maybe next week we'll talk about the Manchurian Candidate. Tonight we're going to talk about, once again, reality is a simulation. It's pliable, and you can create within the simulation. And so here's one vid to kind of like get you a new perspective on that, or to recalibrate your reality. And the next one is on MK Ultra, which was a program in the late 60s, and the Manchurian Candidate, the original and the remake, both were about sleeper agents. And so there's a lot of talk online about sleeper agents. Doing everything from, committing acts of terrorism to, just shooting, the schools. And, they say they're sleeper agents and they're MK Ultra. And if you go on YouTube, and you look at the videos about MK Ultra entertainers, and that there's a lot of MK Ultra prostitutes in Washington, D.C., and there was a TV show on, I think, ABC about 10 years ago called The Dollhouse, which was about these sleeper agents that also posed as call girls, call boys as well, and it got canceled after like a season and a half. And I always wondered, like, maybe the CIA just didn't point blank like this. It's called The Dollhouse, and it was really good, actually. So, okay, so, the question is, can you make somebody do something against their will through mind programming? I think most of us, are familiar with A Clockwork Orange, they reprogram the kid's mind in that one. Malcolm McDowell, I think it is, as the actor. They reprogram his mind. Kubrick is all about the mind, the unseen, realities within realities within realities. If you study his films, everything from The Shining to 2001, he always put tons of hidden, quote-unquote, Easter eggs in the films before there even were Easter eggs. He's like the father of all modern clue hiding filmmakers. And, so there is a reality within a reality within a reality hidden within another reality, and they're all negotiable. So there's my pitch for open your mind and, get a new reality. And I usually say in a lot of my social media stuff, when I'm just putting what I do, here's what I do, I'm putting up photos of what I do and memes, I say, when you're ready for a new reality, give me a call. So, if you're ready for a new reality, check out all past episodes of Kirk Spiritual Television, and remember that reality is an illusion. And, I forgot to punctuate the end of that sentence. Maybe I will during the video. Okay, reality is an illusion, appearing and disappearing. Why don't we watch this one first, God's Last Secret, okay? And this is by a guy named Eric J. Peepin, and the website on the YouTube or the profile name is Higher Balance Institute. You can see it right here. I am subscribed, and why don't we just take a look at this, and then we'll go to Project Artichoke, the Manchurian Candidate, MK Ultra. Okay, so here we go.
Asking ourselves while we lay in our beds staring at our ceiling, or out in the field staring at the sky, what is life? What is our purpose? What is the meaning of it all? As if some part of us was saying, it's just not real. It's just something keeping us here, entertaining us, keeping us involved. And in some ways, every time we think about slipping away into some deeper state of mind, some form of inner peace, there's always something that takes us away, some simplicity of life. Amusement parks, movies, just general entertainment, friends and families pulling you by the arm, come along with us, watch this, do that. And meanwhile, we always wonder, what is life? As if something was watching us, something observing us, wondering, is this the one? Is this one different than all the others? And yet, as soon as we begin to drift away, something else shudders and strikes our life to drag us back into the drama of it. And it just seems after a while, time and after time, as we grow smarter and wiser, we begin to see things seem to repeat themselves over and over. Of course, they're all uniquely different, but in some ways it just seems to be the same in just a different way. I'd like to introduce you to this gentleman. This is Professor Sylvester James Gates, Jr. He is a theoretical physicist who received his Bachelor's of Science, Mathematics and Physics, and his PhD degrees from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the later in 1977. His doctoral thesis was the first thesis at MIT to deal with supersymmetry. He is currently the John S. Toll Professor of Physics at the University of Maryland, College Park, and serves on President Barack Obama's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. Here's a little clip that you should pay special attention to, and also not only to what he's saying, but take a look at the images in the background, because they're going to come up again. Something very similar, something very strikingly similar to something that spiritual masters were seeing and trying to carve into clay tablets and into stone and to draw on the ground because they didn't have the technology we have. And they're known as yantras and mandalas and all of these things that they seen in their mind. So take a look at this.
Are you saying your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers on our computers?
That is correct.
So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos?
Into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code.
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
It's not just sort of resembles computer code, you're saying it is computer code.
It's not even just is computer code, it's a special kind of computer code that was invented by a scientist named Claude Shannon in the 1940s. I have in my life come to a very strange place because I never expected that the movie The Matrix might be an accurate representation of the place in which I live.
So this brings us back to the same question when we stare off into the sky. Keep in mind, everyone doesn't do this, at least not like some of us do. We see and we feel something different, something that says something isn't right. We go back thousands of years again to the shamans, the Vedics, the mystics, the seekers of higher truth who separated themselves from everybody else in the world, from everything in the world, because they knew that something was just distracting them as if it was trying to hold them in a certain state of mind, saying this is reality. And by separating themselves from everything and everyone, up in their caves out in the jungle, they dug deep within their mind, whether it was psychedelics or drugs which showed them some weird techno energy fields or structural energy, or just deep meditations within their mind. They began to push deeper and deeper. For you see, when you have nothing else around you, you tend to go within, and within is what? It's micro. It's like looking deeper and deeper within your consciousness, like a super powerful microscope. And you go through these thresholds as you go deeper and deeper within your mind, as long as there's nothing outside bothering you, nothing to distract you, to snap you into what we think is reality. You go deeper and deeper, and you battle your own mind, and you move past everything that you think that you see, and finally, when you get down deep enough to the most micro levels, exactly what Mr. Sylvester James Gates was talking about, you find these unusual patterns that we're finding now in science, in quantum physics, and supersymmetry science. In other words, we are finding the same thing they found thousands of years ago out in the jungles and in the caves. A center of the mind, a center of the universe, something that said, here is the greater truth of reality. This is what everything is made of. It's all following patterns. It's all following a program. And if you can understand this program, if you can conceive it, if you can comprehend it, as you push deeper and deeper and deeper down to the depths of the finest structures, if your mind can comprehend what you see, which we would understand in today, our knowledge of science, our civilization's beginning to comprehend, is code, computer code. That's what's there. That's what these Vedic masters were finding within their deepest mind. When they separated everything that they were, everything that they believed, everything that they thought, just removed everything that kept clawing and pulling and pushing on them to keep them in some kind of static state of mind, just moving along. They went so deep within their mind, they discovered the ultimate level of reality. And in so, the ability to change reality. If they found the code, the very structure that was written, and they were part of that code, and they could self-realize, self-become aware. This is what consciousness is. This is what self-realization is. This is awakening. When you hear the word awakening, what does that really fucking mean? It means that you begin to see reality in a different way. You no longer see what everybody else sees. You see something different. You see more. And that is realization. That is awakening from a sleep. That is a consciousness level. When you look out the world and you see the patterns and the structures, and you see that these patterns and these structures are repetitive. It's as if we are a collective following a pattern, that we are becoming predictable in life. As we develop technology, we begin to see the world, we begin to predict what human behavior is. We begin to predict behavior of animals and species and water currents and atmosphere changes. And eventually, as our technology gets more and more and more advanced, we will be able to predict the future without the future really being written, but actually somehow being able to look at the architecture of reality and understand that everything is governed by some form of program, some reality that's governed. And we're part of it. Every living thing, everything, is as if it was programmed or designed. Some say it was designed by God. Some say maybe it's a greater program. Some say it's maybe just some computer process that's running in the future. And we are all part of that petri dish of a program running. I find it ironic that we're stuck on a planet that's just circular. We can walk and walk and walk, and we just come around to the other side. It's as if, hey, we don't want something to happen on this computer program, so let's make sure that it doesn't run into any interference of other programs out there. So we'll stick it on a ball, and then it just will cultivate and cultivate and cultivate like a petri dish, not tampered with, until eventually it evolves to a level that it springs wings and it can fly out of its petri dish, or in this particular case, off of itself, outside of itself. And then we can see what new equations it'll run when it mixes and blends with new species out in the universe. As if something was
I think you kind of get the idea, right? You know, it sounds like a 70s acid trip. But I dug it, you know, and I wanted to pass it along to you. Once again, it's from an author, and his name is Eric Pepin, and it's a book series called God's Last Secret, which explores simulated reality and recounts Eric's firsthand with artificial intelligence from the not-too-distant future, traversing through time, detailing the riveting true story in all its glory and detail. God's Last Secret is the most extraordinary book series you will ever read, and every word of it is true. Okay. Thanks for that, Eric Pepin. Now, let's check out Project Artichoke, Manchurian Candidate, because we only have about 6 minutes left. Oops, dang. Here we go. Let's see. Nope, where did it go? I just closed the link. Let's see if we can find it. History. Here we go. Okay. Project Artichoke, the Manchurian Candidate. And this is the...
Por la intensidad de...
This is the series, this profile, how stuff works. And if you know, it's kind of become like a cult meme. And they say, and here's where it gets really crazy. They say that in every single video. And here's where it gets really crazy, okay? Here we go. Mind bending, mind hypnotizing, and mind control from the MK Ultra Project Artichoke. Check it out, guys.
You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. In the film The Manchurian Candidate, shadowy communist forces use brainwashing, hypnosis, and drugs to turn an ordinary U.S. soldier into an unwitting assassin. This soldier has no knowledge of his experiences. Instead, his programming is triggered by seeing a Queen of Hearts playing card. After he carries out his specified task, he forgets the entire sequence. It's a frightening proposition, and it makes for hair-raising fiction. But could it happen in real life? Several intelligence agencies actually did try to create unwilling sleeper agents, and they weren't all communist. In fact, one of them was the CIA. Here's where it gets crazy. During the 1950s, the CIA ran a top-secret operation codenamed Project Artichoke. According to a CIA memo from 1975, Artichoke is a code name for the study and use of special interrogation methods and techniques. These methods include the use of hypnosis, drugs such as morphine or sodium pentothal, and psychological torture techniques such as total isolation. Project Artichoke arose from Project Bluebird and eventually transformed into the more well-known Project MK-Ultra. Over the course of this project's lifetime, it addressed several disturbing questions, such as, can an individual be made to perform an act of attempted assassination involuntarily under the influence of artichoke? To answer this question, the CIA contemplated several tactics that, were they common knowledge, would have generated an enormous uproar and outrage from the American public. To this day, the details of this murky operation are largely unknown. There is evidence that the CIA used LSD on interrogation subjects and also conducted numerous interrogations and experiments with other drugs, searching for a combination of techniques and substances that could produce extraordinarily compliant, suggestible individuals. According to the current historical record, these experiments were largely unsuccessful and at times disastrous. There was also at least one documented death linked to this series of programs. About a week after a CIA representative gave Army civilian Frank Olson a dose of LSD, Olson died, crashing through a window and plummeting to the ground. The death was ruled a suicide. But how close did the CIA come to creating an unwitting assassin? The most disturbing piece of evidence comes from a 1954 memo, wherein the Artichoke team describes and analyzes a plan to drug a well-connected foreign national, brainwash the subject, and return them to their normal surroundings with no knowledge of the event. The goal was to make this subject an involuntary assassin. Once triggered by a certain symbol, phrase, or other stimulus, the subject would attempt to kill his or her designated target. In other words, to create a real-life Manchurian candidate. The memo states that this is a hypothetical problem and also concludes that the operation would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible. There would be very little time to imprint the programming. The agency would have almost no physical control of the subject, and the access to the subject would have to take place in a social situation with non-CIA company. Additionally, the Artichoke team realized that any news of the operation could ruin further missions. This evidence only proves that the agency contemplated these types of operations, but the lack of further detail leads many investigators to suppose the field operations may have been more extensive than the CIA would have the public believe. After looking through the heavily redacted files and searching the masses of missing
we've run out of time for this week. I'll see you next week in the Cyber Temple of Mind-Bending Reality. And thanks for watching. And next week we're going to be more in the same vein. Mind control, reality is an illusion. And thanks for watching. My name's Kirk Kerber. It's been my pleasure to be your host on tonight's Kirk Spiritual Metaphysical Television. Shakti Namaste.
CIA programs that used drugs and psychological manipulation to conduct unsavory experiments on U.S. citizens and possibly foreign nationals. Most conspiracy theorists have heard of MK-Ultra. Today it's often cited in pop culture, such as movies and video games. But what if MK-Ultra isn't the worst of the bunch? Some, and not all of them conspiracy theorists, believe the American public has been the victim of a massive bait and switch. That Project Artichoke was more than a few weird psychological studies, and that it was much, much worse than Project MK-Ultra. Here's where it gets crazy. Enter Operation Dormouse. In A Terrible Mistake, the murder of Frank Olson and the CIA's secret Cold War experiments, journalist H.P. Albarelli Jr. argues that the CIA and the Ford administration purposefully leaked information about MK-Ultra. Albarelli argues that, beginning in 1975, the government attempted to divert attention from Artichoke. But why? Albarelli believes that Artichoke encompassed some of the CIA's most reprehensible secrets they would kill to keep. This was hardly out of the ordinary. Albarelli argues that the CIA had already murdered scientists at the dawn of the Artichoke program. For example, the reported suicide of Frank Olson, who allegedly jumped from a window after being earlier dosed with LSD, was a thinly veiled murder. If all this is true, then what exactly happened during Project Artichoke? Albarelli presents Artichoke as the operational side of the mind control experiments studied in MK-Ultra. MK-Ultra was associated with prestigious colleges, research labs, and prominent professors, providing a measure of credibility and indemnity. However, Project Artichoke may have authorized numerous clandestine, highly illegal operations on unwitting foreign nationals and U.S. citizens. These experiments allegedly included non-consensual drug dosing, brainwashing techniques, and long-term attempts to create unwilling assassins. According to Albarelli, by the mid-1970s, the CIA knew the public was out for blood. The 1970 and congressional hearings headed by Senator between the Ford administration and the CIA's General Counsel. The CIA allegedly believed that revealing carefully selected information about MK-Ultra would take the heat off Artichoke. Some of America's most influential political players have been accused of participating in the cover-up, including Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. During these meetings, the CIA allegedly informed the White House that they'd made a secret pact with the Department of Justice in 1954, essentially guaranteeing that they would not prosecute